Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we'll complete all the enhancements, the minor corrections that we discussed in our shopping cart application and implement persistence onto our shopping cart. With that, this would be the last video in the series of shopping cart. The application for me is already running on port 3000 and it should be something like this on your end as well. I have attached a zip file in the description. Please download it, run npm install once, and then npm start. You'll see the same running application on your screen as well. And then any items that we add on to cart can be seen in the web page. And as we can see, there are some CSS issues where this gap needs to be increased a little to ensure that it looks very similar to home page. And then we will bring home and cart in the center and add a theme switcher here. And then the persistence. So right now, if we refresh our application, the data goes away because we have not implemented persistence. But with new change that we are doing, we'll be able to persist the data across the cart refreshes. So let's get started with that. And for that, let's start with header first. So here we are at the header. To ensure that the nav links are coming at the center, what we can do, instead of margin end auto, we can have mx auto. So automatically left and right would be set automatically and home and cart would come at the center. The second change that we need to do, for that we need to declare a state variable. The state variable would be is dark mode. Okay, so by default is dark mode is set to false. And then we'll have a toggle theme method, which would basically take this dark mode into account and then do some operations so that our theme switcher starts working. Now we need to call this method and do some operations. So for that, just outside the navbar collapse. So if you inspect, this is your navbar collapse and we want the button outside of it. So just like shop cart is here, similarly, it would be somewhere here. So that's where we'll add the button. So let's have toggle theme. And in this case, if is dark mode is active, then we'll show one icon and that icon, let's have this sunfill icon from React Bootstrap. Else we will show moonfill icon. Let's import the button from React Bootstrap and let's save it. So with this, we'll be able to see that a button would come up. This. So right now it is showing that it's not dark mode. So we can switch to dark mode. This would switch our theme and also change the icon conditionally. So that's what we've added here. Now let's populate the functionality here in toggle name. So here we'll use the function implementation of set state. So we are calling the setter, previous value we have. So now at least the switch would start to work. So when we now click on this, our icons are changing. That's good. Now for the functionality, if we have a look at the bootstrap, so in this bootstrap, as we can see, they're also having this theme switcher, so dark, light, and auto. And how this is working, as we can see, database theme attribute is there. Let me zoom in a little. So database theme set to dark, database theme set to light. So this is the attribute that is changing with the HTML node. And that's exactly what we'll implement in our functionality as well. So in here, how do we get access to HTML node? We use document and it is the document element, which is the HTML node. So document element dot set attribute, database theme. So this is our condition. And with this, let's see, our theme switcher is working perfectly. If we refresh, so now on refresh, we can see the HTML node does not have that particular attribute. But when we click on the button, the attribute would be added and removed. So the theme switcher is working. That's good. Now the next thing that we need to do in the cart page, let me close this console. In the cart page, the gap should be there on all the product tiles. It's a very small fix. I think we missed it last time. So let's open cart page. in cart page, right now we are using only margin Y4. So around top and bottom, it would add the margin at the row level. But what we want the gap to be there. So there is a gap class available, which is G. So gap 4, if we add that, automatically it will add the required gap. So now this page is also looking good. And now let's fix the issue with persistence. So if you go to cart and refresh, since entire JS is loading again and the data is not persisted anywhere, it is refreshing. What we would do for this, we'll add some functionality onto cart reducer. We can create a custom hook for use local storage and call all that. In order to not overcomplicate the implementation, what I would do, I'd create two methods here, which would be responsible for writing cart data to local storage and retrieving it back. And we'll use them in our reducer. So the two methods that we'll write, first definitely load from storage, and then second would be save to storage. Okay, so now let's write save to storage because that will be easier. And this would be of type cart item, an array of it. It won't return anything. And let's put everything in a try catch block. We'll use session storage instead of local storage because this will automatically clear whenever you close the tab, and we don't want anything to be there infinitely in the storage. So we are setting, and instead of hard coding the key, it would be beneficial if we can use this in app constants. So we'll export a new constant, const. Let's call it shopping cart. So now cart storage key is available, and wherever we need, we will use cart storage key. So set item cart storage key. We always need to stringify the items. So here the stringification was successful. In case it fails, console.error. So we are logging the error. Now to load from storage, most of the implementation would remain same. The thing is, we won't pass any items. Instead, return type would be an array of cart item, and in here, const stored cart items is equals to, now this would become get item, the same key. We are not reading anything. And in case stored cart items are available, then json.parse stored cart items, and let's be explicit as cart item array. So we know that that's the thing that we are writing here in the function below, and we'll use this. And this would be load cart from storage. Else we'll return an empty array. And in here, if this fails, return an empty array, error loading cart from. So now you have both of these methods ready. One to load the cart data that we have saved, and one for saving the cart data. In here, we will start using load cart data from storage. So initial state will be either the data that we have set in the cart or an empty array as it was before. So this will take care of the initialization. Now this place where we were returning the state directly, updated state, instead of returning it directly, we will return it at the very end. We'll create a variable return updated cart data. Okay. And let's define the updated cart data. And let's rename this. So this one, if you remember, we are just checking while adding the item to cart. If item already exists in cart, then we are incrementing the quantity by 1. Else, we add the item separately into as a new item in the existing state. So instead of putting this as item in cart, let's rename this to existing item. Better name for this variable. So this one. And instead of returning, now what we would do, you don't need to destructure the state and others. So here, let's clean this up. Return is gone. This is gone. And now updated cart data is equals to your map And in this case, now we would have if and else condition, because initially we were returning, so execution used to break, but now it won't break. So we need to break it explicitly and have if else conditions to handle the data appropriately. In the else condition, we would just have to do this. So updated cart data is equals to your state.items and action.payload. And once you're done execution, let's break this. So modification 1 complete. The second one very similar. Again, updated cart data is equals to this, and then break the execution. And third one also very similar. This is good. And now in here, what we would do, save cart to storage, use the updated cart data. So save cart to storage, updated cart data, whatever changes we are making, we are saving them. And then before returning, what we would do, we would destructure state, items, updated cart data. That's it. So no change in functionality, but now the persistence would be there. Any update, anytime you add to cart, remove from cart, or update the quantity, it will make updates in a state variable and then save that particular state variable to storage and return the updated state to you. So this way, now we have persistence built in. Let's have a look. We'll go to home. Right. So after the page refresh, now if we add something, let's add some quantities and multiple quantities of some. So now you see 7 items are in cart. I'll go to cart and we can see the appropriate quantities are reflecting. And if I refresh, the data is already populated from the session storage, and we can have a look on this as well. So we'll go to storage, session storage, and shopping cart. As we can see, it has all of these information available. If we update something, for example, for the first item, as you can see here, first item, we will update the quantity. So the quantity is set to 1 right now. I'll update it to 3. And now if we see, the data was rewritten and the quantity is now updated to 3. So if you refresh, it will read this data and populate it. So now the data will persist across refreshes and you'll be able to move between items and cart. So here we can see, even when we come back to homepage, we see the same updates reflected even after refreshes. So you can refresh and you will continue to see the same updates. Yeah. And one last thing, as we can see, so when we go to cart page, we see the title gets updated to Snapcart cart, but then it does not update when you come back to home page. So that's because whenever we go to cart page, there's a use effect which is updating the document title. You can create a reusable hook which does that for all the pages, but for now we can just paste it and ensure that it updates. So yeah, details. And in here you can populate the details for product as well. So now product title will also come up. So whenever this executes and your product updates, so in either case, the title would be updated. Whenever you're in product details page, and same for product list page, let's paste this. So we are already calling this use effect once. Let's just take the logic of setting the document title and put it here as well. So now this one, we don't need product title. And oh, great. So now if we go and switch between pages, you'll be able to see that, yeah, Snapcart home. In case you click on details, as we can see, it now shows you the details of the title. So Snapcart, the product name, and then details. So this comes up. When you go back to home, again, the title would update. Yeah. So here we can see now Snapcart home. And then when you go to cart, you title updates appropriately. So this way, now the changes that we wanted to implement are complete. What we did as a summary, we ensured that the header now has the theme switcher in place. We're able to switch between the dark theme and the light theme. We also centered the links using this link update. In the cart page, we added a gap in the product tiles so that when you have more than 4 products added in the cart, they look proper with appropriate gutter spacing between them. Then we added these use effects to ensure that page title updates appropriately when you're switching between views. And then we implemented persistence in your reducer. So now you're loading the cart data from storage whenever we are refreshing the page and saving it to storage whenever we perform any update on our state. So this is another advantage of having reducer, that you can centralize the writing process onto the storage. So you only had to make change in one place and you see the persistence is working in your application by default. And then we defined an appropriate constant to ensure that we are not hard coding these strings anywhere, because if you make a typo, then writing will happen with some other name and reading will happen from another name, which is not recommended. This was it. So what you can do as the next thing is you can implement caching onto your service. So just create an array or a map or whatever data structure you prefer. With that, you can cache the data that comes from the API. Since this is not a dynamic API, you don't have to implement any cache busting logic or something like that. But that would greatly benefit your application, because data is not updating and you're loading all the products at once. If the data is already loaded for the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes, you can cache that data. And then you can see if after 40 minutes, if you're able to clear that data, just reduce the timeout to see it and test it locally. Just play around with this to implement a new feature and play around with these features. And that's what enhances the learning overall in any application that you're working on. So with this, I think our implementation of cart is complete. Our application is functionally rich. You now understand how did we implement reducer, how are we updating quantities, how those state changes are being propagated from various components to various components, how we are sharing data using React context, and we have implemented everything using React Bootstrap. So now we also understand that how easy it is to make your application completely fluid. And with this, it's a wrap. Hopefully, you were able to complete all the implementations that we did as a part of this shopping cart application. From here on onwards, we'll try to cover various aspects of development and how do we implement different use cases with React. But the sessions will be a lot shorter or focused on a single content for a single session. It won't be a series. If you want me to create a series for something very specific, please let me know and we can create a targeted content for that. Hopefully, we learned something during this course. Now we know how to share data properly using contexts, implement reducers, write proper services with Axios or fetch based implementation, whichever one you like. What are interceptors in case you're writing services with Axios? How do we configure them? And then overall, how different parts of your application, the components and the pages will come together to give a journey to the user all the way from starting to finish. Thank you for joining in. And if you have been going through all of these videos, really appreciate your time. Have a great day, everyone.